I've never been a big fan of Michael Douglas. If I'm being honest, my favorite role of his was Guy M.I. in Season 1 of Green Eggs and Ham. So it's perhaps not surprising that my favorite Michael Douglas movie features a decidedly uber-masculine turn from him, and then ends with him being eaten by a lion. I celebrate both and I sleep fine at night. Hello, Canada, and the world at large. This is Lane from Canada. You know, if there's one thing that drives me nuts, it's movies that feature evil animals eating people while trying to hammer us over the head with the message that we kind of deserve it. Because the World Economic Forum and Bill Gates and Al Gore and Leonardo DiCaprio and Satan the Prince of Darkness himself want us to believe that global depopulation would be a good thing, in defiance of God's directive to be fruitful and multiply and replenish the earth. I sat through the entire wretched first season of James Patterson's Zoo, just waiting for them to finally shoot and kill even one of the rampaging animals that were literally annihilating mankind. Spoiler alert, don't do that. That show sucks. So surprising as it might be, we need 1990s Michael Douglas movies to defeat the dark plans of Satan and Leonardo DiCaprio. Welcome to Before Movies Sucked, and this is The Ghost in the Darkness. In 1898, Lieutenant Colonel John Henry Patterson, an accomplished Anglo-Irish military engineer, is dispatched by the British Army to Tsavo, Kenya to assume command of a railway project. He is overseeing the construction of a trestle bridge that has fallen badly behind schedule, which risks allowing the Empire's French and German competitors to claim the African region and its valuable ivory trade. The worksite is staffed by thousands of Kenyan and Indian workers, whose cultural differences often lead to hostilities. The African and Indian workers distrust each other, and the Indians' Muslim and Hindu factions also fall to infighting, further inhibiting the work effort. However, Patterson is determined to complete the project on schedule and return to England before his pregnant wife gives birth to their first child. Patterson is met in Africa by Angus Starling, a Scottish supervisor and Christian missionary, whom he surprises with his passionate knowledge of the African wildlife despite having never visited the continent before. Patterson is overjoyed to experience the wildlands, having studied and wanting to visit his entire life, and we are also introduced to all the glory that is Val Kilmer doing an Irish accent.
Anything special about them?
Well, it's just that they fart through their mouths.
What is it with Stephen Hopkins casting some of my favorite American actors to do bad Irish accents?
My name is Liam. Liam McGivney. I'm not from here. I'm from Ireland. I was born and raised in Belfast.
I've been in this godforsaken land of bungee jumping and McDLTs since I was 12. Just didn't like the way they talked. No music to it.
Just this. But look, now you're gonna blow my brains out or shoot my finger off. What do you think would be the safest course of action for you, Liam?
At the workers' camp, Patterson meets two of the Kenyan foremen, Samuel and Mahina. Mahina particularly impresses Patterson with his leadership skills and physical strength, casually claiming that he once killed a lion with his bare hands. Patterson is informed that a hospital intern was recently attacked and wounded by a lion, which has further demoralized the workers. He pledges to protect the camp himself and rid the workers of the lion's threat. On the first night, Patterson successfully baits and kills the lion with a single shot, earning widespread respect in the camp, since this was a time before Jimmy Kimmel was crying on live TV about stuff like that. The encouraged laborers resume their work under Mahina's leadership, and the project is quickly put back on track for several weeks. In the middle of a calm night, Mahina is abruptly dragged from his tent and mauled to death by a lion. The strong man's violent death terrifies the entire camp and plunges them back into fear. When Patterson brings the body to the camp physician, Dr. Hawthorne, he's told that, "Hey, that's Bernard Hill!"
Arise! Arise, riders of Theoden! Spears shall be shaken! Shields shall be splintered! A sword day! A red day! And the sun rises! Death! Death! All hailing us!
Goosebumps, baby. Sorry about that, but let's be honest, it's a way better movie. Dr. Hawthorne is bothered by the nature of Mahina's injuries, which are inconsistent with a lion hunting for food. Samuel, who has a lifelong fear of lions, advises fortifying the camp with large fires and tightly bound fencing made from the local thorn bushes. However, another worker is killed in the night, and the lion is eventually emboldened to attack the camp in broad daylight, killing a laborer in a crowded work site which immediately erupts into panic.
Move yourself!
The lions vanish before Patterson can recover, and he and Samuel are horrified to realize that Sterling was killed when the lion dropped onto him, leaving them in mourning for their friend. Over the next few weeks, the lions unleash a reign of terror on the camp, evading all efforts to trap or hunt them with almost supernatural ease, and killing more than 30 people. The terrified workers believe the lions are actually demons and the camp is cursed. Many of them refuse to leave the camp or feign sickness in the camp hospital, which is the most secure building on site. Even worse, many of them begin to believe that Patterson has brought the curse, as the killings only began after his arrival. The project's British financier, Robert Beaumont, arrives to assess the situation, played to cold-blooded perfection by the great Tom Wilkinson. He refuses Patterson's request for soldiers to guard the camp, but after learning of Starling's death, he agrees to recruit a famous American big game hunter, Charles Remington. Remington later arrives with a tribe of skilled Maasai lion hunters in the midst of a workers' revolt and is forced to hold the Indian leader, Abdullah, at gunpoint until the angered workers will disperse. He assumes command of the hunt effort and orders the construction of a clean, new hospital, as the original building has the strongest scent of blood and death. Wanting to help Patterson regain the respect of the workers, he treats the soldier as an equal partner in the hunt. Before they leave the camp to begin hunting, Dr. Hawthorne gives Patterson his own high-caliber rifle. Remington, Samuel, and the Maasai warriors track one of the lions into a dense thicket, while Patterson takes an overwatch position on high ground. The hunting party flushes the lion into the open, but Hawthorne's untested rifle misfires when Patterson tries to shoot it. He's almost killed before Remington scares the lion away with a volley of gunshots.
What happened?
I don't know.
What do you mean you don't know?
Misfire.
The first time?
The gun belongs to Dr. Hawthorne.
You exchanged weapons? You went into battle with an unproven rifle? They got an expression, prize fighting. Everybody's got a plan until they've been hit. Well, my friend, you've just been hit. You're getting up. That's up to you.
The Maasai warriors leave, also believing the lions are demons. Remington and Patterson decide to bait the lions to the old hospital by slaughtering and draining several cows, filling the building with the carcasses and blood. The plan works, and the two men engage the lions several times, but are unable to get clean shots of them. The lions withdraw, but immediately attack the less defensible new hospital tent, killing many of the sick and injured workers. Hearing the slaughter, Dr. Hawthorne bravely attempts to defend his patients, but Remington and Patterson also find his body with the others when they arrive. For the record, that was a truly horrifying scene and a great example of how to create fear without the use of gore. We basically never see a real lion touch a real person, or even share a single frame of film, but the sense of hopelessness is inescapable. The innermost circle of hell has been famously described as a place where all hope is abandoned, and I can barely think of a better cinematic example than this. In the aftermath, we are shown just one person running away from the slaughterhouse, and that says as much as the entire preceding scene. The massacre of Dr. Hawthorne and his patients breaks the remaining will of the workers. Abdullah directs hundreds of them to board a train and flee the camp, leaving only Patterson, Remington, Samuel, and a skeleton crew of workers behind, with no possibility of any work continuing.
It's funny how I didn't notice it before. I guess I had some other things on my mind. Not actually something I would appreciate, except, I got up this morning and it's just such a pretty design, and the setting's so beautiful.
You just been hit.
Yeah.
The getting up's up to you. And they're only lions.
Yeah, they were only lions. Yeah. Well, I just saw some fresh paw prints heading out that way. So I guess we've both been hit.
As they hunt, Remington tells Patterson about two brothers who viciously bullied his town when he was a boy, and compares the lions to them, suggesting that they are cowards who rely on one another to hunt through fear. The men follow the prints of the lions and eventually discover their abandoned den, along with scores of human skeletons, finally confirming that the lions are hunting purely for the pleasure of it, and have likely killed over 100 people.
Oh my God. Lions don't do this. Lions never had a lair like this. They're doing it for the pleasure.
Patterson builds an elevated sniping platform and baits it with a seriously annoying baboon who meets a seriously satisfying end after one of the lions attacks them in the night. Patterson falls from the unstable structure when he's suddenly attacked by a demon bird, but manages to shoot and wound the lion with Remington's pistol before it can kill him. It ambushes Patterson, but Remington saves him and finally kills the man-eater. The men celebrate their victory with champagne, and Remington speculates that the remaining lion is now like the bully without his brother, lost and afraid. He reminisces about the family lost in the Civil War, and advises Patterson,
When you meet your son, you hold him high.
That night, Patterson has a nightmare where his wife, Helena, arrives at the camp with her newborn son, but is immediately attacked by the remaining lion. He wakes in terror and sees that Remington's tent has been demolished and the hunter is missing. He pursues the trail to a dry grassland, only to discover that Samuel has found Remington's body. Patterson and Samuel set a funeral pyre for Remington and allow the flames to spread throughout the dry grass. The wildfire drives the remaining lion towards the camp where it ambushes Patterson. He manages to shoot it in the eye, but it survives and pursues the soldier into a tree after he loses his rifle. Samuel is unable to get a clean shot, but throws his double-barreled rifle to Patterson. Patterson is forced to fall from the tree to retrieve the weapon as the lion pounces down after him. In the aftermath, Abdullah brings the workers back to camp and the bridge is completed. Patterson is reunited with his family and fulfills Remington's final wish for him to rip off the Lion King. Samuel narrates that the Savo lions are now on display at the Field Museum in Chicago, and that looking in their eyes will still make you afraid. First off, I'm always going to love Val Kilmer. His take on Doc Holliday in Tombstone was one of cinema's greatest historical characters. Spartan is one of my all-time favorite movies, and I'm actually ashamed of how many times I watched Batman Forever. He was fresh off the disaster of the Island of Dr. Moreau when he started shooting the Ghost of the Darkness, and his own difficult reputation was hard to shake off. However, this is one of the movies where you can see the passion he had for the role, and he really seems to be as in love with Africa as Patterson was. It was another difficult production that wore down director Stephen Hopkins on a lot of fronts, but he only had kind words for Val afterwards. Michael Douglas gives a fun, charismatic turn that may not have been what the director had in mind, but I don't care. He doesn't like killing, but he loves the thrill of the hunt and has just the right amount of crazy to make him memorable and believable as a wandering loner. John Coney as Samuel is another great overlooked actor that I always wanted to see in more movies. I'll admit that his performance is the closest thing to a comic relief that this movie has, but it's never done in a demeaning way, and I love the camaraderie between him, Patterson, Starling, and Remington. He and Patterson poke fun at Starling's devotion to his missionary work, but it never comes across as mean-spirited, and he only ever responds in good humor, promising to convert them both to Christianity. It's guys busting balls around a campfire, and it feels like a gathering of real men in a horrific time, whose friendship is the only thing they can depend on. It also doesn't hurt that Samuel gets some of the best lines in the movie.
I will not rest until both of you are safely in the fold.
I'm beyond conversion. My mother's Roman Catholic and my father's Protestant.
I have 4 wives. Good luck. You like her?
Very much.
I don't like any of mine.
Could this movie be made today? Well, film critics hated this movie, Roger Ebert really hated this movie, the freaking director hated this movie, and I love movies! Seriously though, I confess that I really don't understand all the hate this movie got. Being a box office flop is understandable, that happens all the time, even to great movies. But the critical revulsion really is a head-scratcher to my simple blue-collar mind. Yes, the story takes liberties with the historical events of the Tsavo man-eaters. Yes, the character of Remington was completely fabricated in order to make Patterson's final victory feel more heroic. And yes, it completely forgot to make the concept of white Western colonialism the true villain of the story in defiance of Satan's will. Did I just compare anti-colonialism sentiments to Satanism? Yup. Fight me. Trust me, folks, if they remade this movie today, the lines would get a fleeting reference and maybe even a brief cameo before they teamed up with Viola Davis and Mindy Kaling to declare war on the toxic white guys. My point is, this movie is exactly what we all expected it to be. It's an action-adventure period piece from the guy who brought us Predator 2, with what might just be my favorite score by Jerry Goldsmith. It sets out to thrill, frighten, and entertain us and make Michael Douglas look badass in the process before feeding him to a lion. Succeeds on all counts. It's a 90s Stephen Hopkins movie, silly film critics. Get over yourselves. Aside from that...
Excuse me. I'd like to see John Patterson, please.
Hey, it's Emily Mortimer! Literally the only female character in this movie. Wow, that was both visually and auditorily unpleasant. Here's a more likable 85-year-old Sir Anthony Hopkins playing one of his own compositions on a piano. White savior narrative.
The Wildlife Conservation Research Unit at Oxford. If you want to do something, if you want to make this into a positive, you can. Sorry. Okay, I'm good. Make a donation, support them at the.
Stop fucking crying, bitch! Where?
If you want to know how hard movies have fallen in recent years, there's really no better contrast than movies like Congo, The Edge, and The Ghost in the Darkness, and what I call the Great Evil Animal Trilogy. They were movies about the battle between men and nature, and the men in them weren't afraid of the battle part. None of these heroes were setting out to do harm to nature, but they immediately took up arms when the cruelty and reality of nature turned on them, and they always did so to protect their fellow man. Remember that stupid Jungle Book adaptation with Jason Scott Lee where they actually made Shere Khan the freaking good guy? Like, hello Mowgli, this dude ain't your dad! And that's basically every movie now. The closest we've come to the glory days since then was Jurassic World in 2015, where I actually blurted out, "Holy crap, Chris Pratt just shot a dinosaur!" Good times. Lions are beautiful symbols of power, nobility, and royal majesty, and they also eat adorable little baby lions. When they start eyeing you up like an amuse-bouche, it's time to nut up, shuck the blue hair dye, and turn them into Swiss cheese. Anyway, should Christ tarry, I'll see you in the next video. Jesus loves you, vote Lane for King of Canada. My only regret about Cecil the Lion is that they didn't eat him because I've had Big Cat before and they're delicious. And let's make movies great again.
Put him on the endangered species list.
Come on, man.